Hello and welcome to Spirit Sherpa, the show that helps and encourages you on your journey to unlock your magic mojo. I'm Joshua Radowin, your co-host, here as always with transformational shaman, coach, and her name is Kelly Sparta, and I almost forgot her name. So that is yet another beautiful intro that I just muffed. Well, we're gonna go with it. This is what happens. We're non-scripted people. We were literally right before we jumped on. Let's turn on and see where it goes, which is pretty much the MO most of the time anyway. And that's why you guys get the content you get, because we're not sitting here reading from a script.
No. If I had to read from a script, I wouldn't do this show. One, I wouldn't have the patience to write it, and two, I would be bored reading it. So yeah, that would suck. So just a reminder, guys, before I forget, because I suck at remembering this, please remember to like, subscribe, and share. And if you guys have a local bookstore, metaphysical bookstore, or healing center or whatever, if you could make a QR code out of our URL and bring it in and get them to put it up somewhere that people could see so that they could subscribe to, that would be a huge help to us. Because we're always trying to grow our listening audience, and it's very difficult these days. It was much easier a couple of years ago to get more listeners, but so many podcasts have launched recently that it's become much more difficult to gain traction and to find new people. So as hard as we work, we've actually had our listenership has declined a little bit in the last couple of years, which has happened to everybody who's podcasting and not like doing massive growth, because of the sheer number of people coming into the world. And so if you think this is valuable, finding a way to help people find us, that would be so appreciated. And we love you so much for listening and so much for writing in. And by the way, Tracy Fentress, if you guys have been listening to the podcast for a while, you saw the seer reading for Tracy Fentress and you heard that. And she has just been reporting in over and over again, and her daughter, about how great a life she's been having. I've gotten another email from her recently saying the same thing, and it's just been amazing. And she said that reading, she points to that reading and says that was the turning point. So that's really nice to hear. So, okay, moving on. So today we're going to be talking about the problem with doing magic from the internet. Now, we have discussed this a little bit I think it was in the episode that I did with Jules, where it was one of those, the 4 episodes that we did that were on, I think it was safe things to do or unsafe things to do on the astral or something like that. It was the right magic for the right equation, I think, or right magic for the right application, I think was the name of the episodes. I'm trying to remember it. It was a couple of years ago at this point. My brain no brain at this hour. It's very early. Anyway, Josh is an early riser, and so I take the advantage of that to do our episodes very early in the morning. So
I was up and texting her business stuff at 4 a.m. this morning, so I'm sure she loves that.
Well, my phone's never in the room with me, so you can text me all night long.
I think you got back to me by 5:45 for what it's worth.
I texted you back at 5:45, 6 o'clock, right? So yeah. I actually woke up at 5:30. So yeah.
The life of entrepreneurs.
Yeah. Well, and quite frankly, if I get up early and I go to bed early, I don't snack in the evenings the way that I do if I stay up late. And so it's actually better for me, and I enjoy my life more. So I'm like, okay, I used to be a night owl all the time. And in my old age, I've just been getting up earlier, and yeah, my old age. I'm 55, just for the record.
Kelly, are you coming into the light?
No.
You're spending more time in the light. Kelly, come to the light.
Not Carol Ann. My name is not Carol Ann, and I'm not going into the light. And if you don't get that reference, you're not old enough to. Go watch Poltergeist. Yeah. Okay. Speaking of, mainstream madness. So this conversation started because I gave an assignment to my Psychic Mastery Mentorship Woo You program participants. And I there was a TikTok that I came across, big stunner, right? I'm on TikTok a lot. I like TikTok. And it was a guy who was teaching people how to do a truth spell, which he said was not a curse. The way that he described it was, in fact, a curse. So
Absolutely.
he's like, my friend was really good at curses, but this isn't a curse. And I'm like, the way you described it, absolutely, it is a curse. And if you wouldn't want it, cast upon you, likelihood is it's a curse, right? So be very careful with what you believe in these scenarios. But this particular spell is fraught. It's fraught with a lot. So whenever you're doing spell work, especially if you're doing something that is super powerful, the more powerful the spell, the more likely the blowback and the potential unintended consequences, right? And the karma, depending upon how you cast it, right? Now, a truth spell in and of itself is not a curse, okay? But the intention that you hold for the truth spell can make it a curse, right? So the guy described it as if you ever want to get back at a group of people, if you ever want to blow up a community of people, if you ever want to make things melt down, cast this curse, or cast the spell rather. And it is a curse if you're intending those things. If your intentions are to do damage, do harm, then that's a curse, right? Now, and the way that he wrote it, or the way that he got it from his relative, it is actually phrased as a curse, right? However, you could cast a truth spell for a scenario in which you just were curious and you needed to know what the truth was, right? In which case that is not a curse because you're not intending to do damage. You're like, I just need to understand what's going on, right? There's no negative intent there. It's just bring the truth to light is what you're asking. Truth is not a curse unless you're intending the truth to do damage. Because if you say, I want all of the secrets revealed, I want you guys to take a minute to think about this. I don't care how good your life has been. I don't care how positive you've been as a person. There is at least one secret that you do not want revealed. At least one thing you've done that you would prefer the whole world not know. Okay, because we all make mistakes. This is how we learn, right? There's at least one thing that would be not so great for you. And that's always true, no matter who you are. Because without making mistakes, we don't learn. And without learning, we don't grow. And so if you are someone who has ever tried to grow, I promise you, you've made mistakes that you probably wish the whole world didn't know about, right? So just take a minute. I'm gonna take a couple second beat here and let you guys think about this. Think about what in your life you would not want everyone to know. Yeah, got it? Yeah, I had a feeling. Everybody's got a few, right? At least one. So when we're doing stuff off the internet, because the spell that this guy put out could have very easily been used for political purposes at this point in time, right? But you have to consider what the blowback is. So if we're talking about, so I'm going to ask you, Josh, because you're in the group and you're going to actually have this conversation on Tuesday with Kathy while I'm in surgery. But so what do you see the problems are with this particular curse? So this spell that he put out was to reveal the truth about everything that's going on from everyone involved in a particular group, right? Now, yeah.
Well, first, I just wanted to say the first thing I noticed when I read this, I was like, this is absolutely a curse, even with this is not a curse disclaimer. I was like, this is absolutely a curse. This is black magic. And this is interfering with people's free will as sovereign human beings. So immediately I thought also the next thing, what is the blowback on this? First, do I feel that by using the wording that he used, could he just get through anybody's shields? No, not mine. No, he could not. So, and then beyond that, are you really, with that type of blowback, are you ready to see your truth, the truth of all of the actions you've done? Right? Because if that thing does blow back on you, you are faced with your innermost shadows without somebody else to walk beside you. And good luck, because that was the beginning of my spiritual journey, for the record, and not many people's, make it through that. I'm just going to say that, when all of your egoic fallacies of who you are as this knight upon a fiery steed that is doing all good for the world comes crashing in on you, that is a little bit rough to handle when you see the totality of the actions that you've created. And I see it the same way as it is entering, like, one of the things I've learned from you is, what energetic program do you want to buy into? And do you want to stay stuck in a karmic loop? And I think one of our goals here, as we, ascend, or, continue on this, soul evolutionary plane, is to get out of loops like this. So you have it comes from a very victim state. And we were talking a little bit about that in the last episode, but it comes from a very victimized place. So you can choose to walk away or not. Other unintended consequences. I mean, if that wasn't enough, what if their truth isn't something that you can handle, and then you're also in the wrong, right? So.
Well, yeah. So I want to back up to something you said about it not getting through your shields.
Yeah.
Right? So if you are actually part of the community that you were to do this spell on, this curse on, even if it didn't get through your shields, right? But you're part of the community. So this is the challenge, right? Is that you, as an empath, if you are mixing energies with anyone in that community who does not have good shields, then you're going to be impacted, right? And even if that's not the case, even if you've got excellent boundaries and you're not mixing energies and all of that, we as a species are communal. And there's a reason why they say that, when we talk about mob mentality, that is true, right? And so if you're in this community and all of these people are popping off with their truths, it could, in fact, without getting through your shields, it could trigger you emotionally to do the same thing, because you are in the community and you're being impacted either by you getting triggered by what somebody else is sharing about their truth, or because of the mob mentality piece, right? So you're not necessarily guaranteed to be safe from it. This is one of the reasons why you have to be conscious when you're in a community, because if the whole community starts going down a path and you're like, oh, I don't want to go down this path, you need to step out of that community immediately, right? Because even if it's not a spell that's been cast on them, it's a pathway that they're going on. And if you don't want to be part of that, you need to be sovereign enough in yourself to step out of that community before it takes you off a cliff, right?
Yeah. And another thing that popped up when you were saying that, paradoxically, if it's a community like we have, it could only strengthen that bond. If you think about it, right? Like if you're in a community, I mean, because for me, it talked about him more. Like that video talked about him more doing it from the outside, at least. So
well, you were talking
that
about
being
it as
said,
though you were inside the community that was being cast,
right?
Right, and so that's why.
Right. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah. So paradoxically, if it's cast on a community that has inherent trust for each other and has truth as their foundation, I mean, I'm just remembering, a conversation we had 3 weeks ago where you brought up something, very close to something that relates to both of us. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. This is what's going on. I have no problem speaking my truth to you. So that only solidifies where we stand with one another. So,
right.
Like paradoxically, that's something that we can also see there. Yeah. But, you know, that's pretty much what I see as far as what can go wrong on my end. I am sure that you see some other things.
Well, so let's take this example and apply it to politics, because I looked at it and I was like, this thing is designed to foment hate and discontent within the community that it's cast upon, right? And so, let's say that you don't like the current regime and you want to point it in that direction. There was no guarantee that the act of casting that upon that regime would not create more damage, right? Because if everybody starts infighting and crashing against each other within the context of who the people are who are in power in the moment, they would go after each other. That's how they're behaving at the moment. They're going after their opponents. Well, they would now consider each other their opponents, and they would go after each other. And now the full weight of all of the power that they individually wield is now being used for infighting, and it just would cascade into potentially an even worse scenario, right? Because that's how it is right now. So you have to assume that people who are triggered are going to become more of who they already are, right? They're just going to be more unreasonable, right? But they will be themselves and unreasonable at the same time, right? That's how it is. So I was sitting there being unreasonably dramatic on my plane trip where I'm like limping through because I was triggered, right? And so I'm sitting there, oh, woe is me, woe is me. Now, not super loud, because who I am is somebody who owns my own crap, and I knew I was in it and whatever. I wasn't being obnoxious, but I could have been, and in my 20s I would have been, right? So the drama factor goes up dramatically. Haha, pun intended. And so it just, these are the sorts of things you have to consider what the blowback is, right? And whether the meltdown is worse than the beingness, right? And so, there's a whole host of things. Now, unintended consequences, right? So let's say you cast this on a community and the community starts to melt down. Well, but you've cast it on the community, and it's not just on the community itself, it's on the people within it. Those people are now truth tellers, and they will truth tell everywhere, not just in that community. And now other people who were uninvolved in the community, spouses, partners, coworkers, children, parents, who were uninvolved in the community, are now impacted as well. Okay? And so the karma on this sort of thing is intense, right? Because you're not just impacting the people who were problematic, it's also the people who were associated with them, which is not fair, right? And aside from the fact that you're doing black magic in the first place, where you're doing something to someone that they have not asked for, right? That's black magic in its most basic definition, right? And so, as much as people tell you one thing, it may become something else, right? And so you have to be very careful. So as I said, truth in and of itself, asking for truth, is not a curse. It's just a question. Kathy and I had a discussion about this when I was talking to her about talking to you guys. And it'll be interesting to hear what Kathy has to say in the group, because I'm sure that she has her own perspective on it, as she always does. We love her. And but the upshot is that the unintended consequences are the potential additional fallout. It's also the karma that you end up with from having done the working in the first place, right? But when I was talking to Kathy, we were talking about truth being not inherently a curse, right? If you hold the intention of it being a neutral question, then it's not inherently a curse, right? This person was doing it as a, blow this thing up, right? And yeah, that'll work. Truth is a harsh mistress, right? You know, if you have a bunch of people who are hiding shit from each other and it all comes out, oh, Lord help us, right? It's just my Southern is coming up, right? It's just we're in big trouble, right? But in a lesser context, when you're just saying, you know, I need to understand what the truth is, and this is absolutely true in the political environment in the U.S. right now. Both sides are spewing huge amounts of crap, and the amount of stuff that is being shared is a lot, and it's all twisted in the story of whichever side you're on, right? And to simply ask for a truth filter for yourself, that's not bad, right? You just say, I would like to only see the truth, right? That would be a powerful spell for you. It would make you kind of hard to live with, just so you know, because, you know, nobody's going to be able to throw you a surprise party or be able to, you know, get one over on you for your own good, you know. But, you know, your spouse isn't going to be able to cheat on you without you knowing all of these things, right? You know, but to be able to say, I want to see only the truth of a situation, and I only want the truth to come to me. That is a spell you can cast on yourself that is not black magic, right? But be prepared, because you will hear the truth. And that may mean truths about yourself that other people see that you don't want to hear too. This is the unintended consequences, right? You know, we're like, oh, I just want to see the truth. Okay, great. And yes, you're going to get the truth. People aren't going to white lie to you, right? So that can be its own problem as well. And you could have some blowback on that. So truth is a harsh mistress. So if you're going to play with truth in your spell working, you need to be very careful. Be careful what you ask for. You will surely get it. Right?
You know, I think it's interesting because I just got truth you know, like I'm a Terry Goodkind fan, and you know, one of my, I guess, early initiations into magic was reading all of the Sword of Truth series, which there's some amazing things in there if you haven't read them all. And if you've got 3 years to dedicate to reading, I highly recommend that book because that's what I did.
It's a lot of books.
All of those.
I think it's what,
That's
12?
a lot of books.
13?
16.
16?
It might be. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how many it is now. But you know, like I was very intentional with what I'm getting, you know, tattooed on me. And that was, you know, a part of it. So when I saw that spell come up, I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then you talking about it, was like, great, because I love my languaging in it. Even better now.
Right?
You know, I was very aware of what that meant, if that makes sense. And I knew what I wanted it to mean to me.
Yeah. So when are you getting that done?
I started it. It's a 40-hour back piece. So it is, you know, I've created my own version of the caduceus, but the staff or the rod is actually the Sword of Truth. And that's my homage to, you know, the archangels I've worked with, you know, because I see Hermes and Archangel Raphael and Merlin and Thoth. They're kind of all of a similar energy to me. And they all have a, you know, so there's the bits and pieces of my appreciation. Not, let me be clear here, not my worship, but my appreciation of those energies and how much they've been monumental in my growth and how, you know, the energies I use to work with others in my healing practice. You know, I'm very much less of the guy doing the things and much more a conductor of these beautiful energies that have, you know, allowed me to work with them over time. So,
yeah. So, if you saw this,
and it's got snakes. And it's got which I know you like.
I love me some snake. Yes. So grandmother snake, she is the bomb. So if you saw this TikTok and took advantage of it and used it before you heard this podcast, don't worry, you can go back in time and cancel it. Not a problem. It's okay. But yeah, this is this is one of those things where you have to be very careful what you take off the internet. And we had this conversation before with somebody had sent me a spell once that they found on the internet, and that spell had actually included in it that you were handing over your energy and or your power, your volition or something to the person who had written the spell. And I was like, oh, hell no. And they were like, I don't know about this. It feels weird. I'm like, yeah, that's because you should not touch this shit, man. This is bad, right? So read your spells carefully. Please be careful where you get your magic from, because it really matters. I think, actually, it was probably in the purchased magic episode that I talked about that. But yeah, where you get your magic from, it really matters. And it's great that you get free shit on the internet, but it's often not. It's often
Everything
not
comes with a
worth it
price.
to pay for it, right?
Everything comes with a price. Is there anything
Everything
such as
comes with
free?
a price. Yes.
Yeah.
So,
Me, I got to tell you, my year this year has been doing a lot less magic, and is there shades because I'm afraid of it? Maybe, but more because I think I sat into the what if what I signed up for before I got here was actually better than the shit I keep trying to manipulate into reality.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah,
Yes.
because
I just
yeah.
I,
Don't get me wrong, I love magic. I just every time I do it, I'm like unintended consequence. Not every time. Like there's been, so what's a nice thing that I do? Because I don't use it often. Like if I want to like really experience the divine one day, like I need some confirmations because I'm in my shit. I'm like, can you show me some magic out here in the real world today? Like, let's just send me some places that's going to be cool as shit, and that I can, like just be with the magic that we live in. And like it doesn't need to manipulate my whole reality. I don't need a whole bunch of things to shift in my life. It's just give me an experience of the divine today that'll really just concrete my faith that already is very deep, but I might need a little extra today.
yeah. These days, the vast majority of the magic I do is self magic. So it's, identity shift work. It's choosing a vision of my reality, right? It's that sort of thing. It's very little of the magic I do has anything to do with the outside world. The last big working I did was killing the baby witch's TikTok curse, where they cursed the moon and cursed the whole planet by accident. Yeah, talk about unexpected consequences.
That reminds me, the moon spoke to me the other day, and I was like, "Hey, I know Kelly." She's like, "I love Kelly." That was so funny because I was telling that story as I was staring out at the moon, and I was out in the moon with a couple of friends, and I was telling them that story, and then I was talking to grandmother, and that was that came up. I was like, "I am a friend of Kelly." It's like, "Oh, we love Kelly."
Well, and I looked at her last night because we had the Aries moon coming up and full moon and everything, which was technically 2 nights ago. But I looked at her and I said, "Okay, I'm ready," because she had promised me a boon, right? She said, you fixed this and I couldn't, and I'm here to help. And I was like, "Okay, I'm ready now," right? So that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out, because I had a general idea on it. It was being more visible, being more seen, because she's seen, she reflects the seeingness, right? So which is always, if you're going to ask a spirit guide or something like the moon or anything like that, especially a spirit animal, you need to ask them for something that's in relationship to what they are, right? So she's a reflection of the light that comes towards her. And so I'm like, okay, I'm ready for you to reflect so that people see me, right? And so that's the boon, right? So these are the sorts of things that you have to pay attention to as you do this. But the last piece of magic I did was the last piece of big magic I did. It's a world impacting magic, which technically is black magic because I was impacting the world. But I don't consider it black magic because I was undoing someone else's black magic by doing it, right? So like it's a gray area. That one's a gray.
We like gray areas.
Yeah. Yeah. When the TikTok witches curse the moon because their elders say you can't curse the moon. They go, hold my beer. It's like can't and shouldn't are correlated, right? It's like, it's a bad idea. Do not say, well, I could do it. It's like, ugh. Yeah, it's a bad idea. Yeah, let's curse the moon and curse the fae at the same time. What a great idea, right? It's just like,
talk about karma and unintended consequences.
Oh my God, so many unintended consequences on that one. Yeah.
Let's just go out and say you shouldn't curse anything,
Yeah,
like,
let's just not curse things.
Let's just like take that out of the language, like the new earth that's evolving here. Let's just, like not do those things.
Yeah.
We just move on with, grace and love. How about that? I don't know.
Yeah.
Crazy concept.
Curses actually drag you back down into duality.
Yeah.
Because they are inherently involved in duality, right? And we're in the new earth, we're working our way up to experiential level, which is not assuming that there's good and bad, but that everything just is, right? And to do that, you have to see that we are all one. And when you see that we are all one, you see that to curse someone else is to curse yourself. And, we're talking about that right now in terms of karma and blowback and all of that. But inherently, that's how we perceive it in duality. But inherently, the actual curse you send out is cursing yourself because you and that other person are the same thing. And so this is why we do not do curses, right? Because when we understand reality at that higher level, we understand that to do damage to another is to do damage to yourself. Yeah. So I tend to do things that are more distraction based, more, I tend to remove people from my reality or, keep them from being able to get to me if they're trying to do damage to me, right? Like I'll be like, nope. That is, and I try to be proportional in my responses, right? So, I was attacked like a month ago, and I just sent out a proportional response. And that was my warning shot over the bow, right? It's just like, this is, there you go. This is a don't do this again because it's not wise, right? But it's never intended to do damage to the person. It's just simply to stop them from walking down the path of doing damage to themselves by trying to damage me, right? And so that's the thing, is because I recognize that when you do damage to another, you are damaging yourself, right? And so whenever my response goes out, it is not with the intent to do damage, it's with the intent to teach, right? It's the intent to, okay, maybe you'll learn a lesson from this response, right? And so this is the situation, okay? So please just take curse out of your vocabulary.
Hex, jinx, just do away with them.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that I don't think I ever really would have done that work, even in my lowest points in life. But, I think that's the empath thing. Like I always felt like, even when I was under direct attack, which, we've talked about, you're like, when you're under direct attack, you should do something. I'm like, I know, but, I still never really wanted other people to hurt either. But, shifting that into I'm teaching them what that feels like is a completely different thing. And that is, stepping into that sovereign empath ability,
Yeah. So, okay. Well, I think that is a good place to stop. Don't curse people. Okay.
Choose wisely.
Choose wisely. Right. Okay. Noted. All right. So remember to like, subscribe, and share, please. And QR code and all the things. And remember that what you focus on expands. What you intend is what you create. So choose wisely.